A man sits by a river in exile, broken and defeated. His homeland lies in ashes. His people are scattered like sheep without a shepherd. Everything he believed in has crumbled to dust. But in one earth-shattering moment, the heavens themselves tear open before his eyes, revealing a vision so impossible, so terrifying, and so magnificent that it changes not just his destiny, but the destiny of an entire nation. Have you ever wondered why Ezekiel is called the prophet of visions? Why his encounters with the divine are unlike anything else recorded in Scripture? What made this man witness things so extraordinary that even angels would tremble at the sight? Today you're about to discover something that will forever transform how you understand God's power. Get ready, because what you're about to hear isn't just ancient history, it's a revelation that speaks directly to our generation, carrying warnings and promises that are being fulfilled before our very eyes. This message has the power to change lives, but only if it reaches the right hearts. If God is already speaking to you through these words, don't keep this truth to yourself. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because every person who doesn't hear this message is someone who might miss the most important revelation of their lifetime. Your simple action could be the difference between someone walking in darkness or discovering the light of God's glory. The year was 593 BC. Jerusalem, the holy city, had fallen to the Babylonian Empire. Thousands of God's chosen people were torn from their homeland and marched into exile like criminals. Among them walked a young priest named Ezekiel, his heart shattered, his faith hanging by a thread. Ezekiel had grown up in the temple, serving the Most High God with reverence and awe. He had witnessed the sacred rituals, breathed in the incense, and felt the presence of the Almighty in the holy place. But now everything was gone. The temple was destroyed. The priests were scattered. The presence of God seemed to have abandoned his people entirely. For 5 long years, Ezekiel lived in exile by the Kebar River in Babylon. 5 years of questioning, 5 years of silence from heaven, 5 years of wondering if God had forgotten his promises. The other exiles had begun to lose hope. Some even started worshipping the gods of their captors, believing that the God of Israel had been defeated. But Ezekiel refused to give up. Every morning he would walk to the riverbank and pray. Every evening he would lift his eyes to the heavens and cry out, "Lord, where are you? Have you abandoned us? Will you remember your covenant?" His wife would find him there, sometimes weeping, sometimes just staring at the sky in desperate silence. "Ezekiel," she would say gently, "perhaps it's time to accept our fate. Perhaps our God cannot reach us here." But Ezekiel would shake his head. "No, beloved. I know he is still there. I know he still hears. Something is coming. I can feel it in my spirit." Little did he know that on his 30th birthday, the very day he should have been ordained as a priest in Jerusalem, heaven itself would crash into his reality with a force that would leave him forever changed. It was a scorching afternoon by the Kebar River. The sun beat down mercilessly as Ezekiel sat alone by the water's edge, lost in prayer and meditation. The other exiles were resting in whatever shade they could find, but something deep in Ezekiel's spirit kept him by the river. Suddenly the air around him began to change. A wind started blowing from the north, not an ordinary wind, but something that made every cell in his body vibrate with an otherworldly energy. The sky, clear just moments before, began to darken with strange, swirling clouds. Ezekiel looked up, squinting against what seemed like a distant storm. But as the darkness approached, he realized this was no natural phenomenon. The clouds were shot through with fire, not the red-orange flames he knew, but a bronze-colored fire that seemed to burn without consuming, to shine without blinding. "What is this?" he whispered, his heart beginning to pound. Then he saw them. 4 living creatures emerged from the heart of the storm, and Ezekiel's mind reeled as he tried to process what his eyes were telling him. These beings were unlike anything he had ever imagined. Each had 4 faces, the face of a man, the face of a lion, the face of an ox, and the face of an eagle. Their bodies blazed like burnished bronze, and they moved with the speed of lightning. But it wasn't just their appearance that overwhelmed him, it was their wings. Each creature had 4 wings, and the sound they made as they flew was like the roar of mighty waters, like the voice of the Almighty himself. When they moved, sparks of fire flashed between them like torches, and the very ground beneath them seemed to tremble. Ezekiel fell to his knees, his whole body shaking. "I cannot bear this," he gasped. "No man can look upon such glory and live." But the vision intensified. Beside each creature was a wheel, not ordinary wheels but wheels within wheels, their rims full of eyes that seemed to see everything, know everything, penetrate everything. As the creatures moved, the wheels moved with them, rising, falling, turning in perfect harmony. The sound was overwhelming, the rushing of wings, the rumbling of wheels, the crackling of supernatural fire. Ezekiel pressed his hands to his ears, but the sound seemed to come from within his very soul. And then, above it all, he saw something that made him forget how to breathe. Above the creatures was what looked like an expanse of crystal, clear as ice but blazing with inner light. And above the expanse was a throne, not made of gold or silver or precious stones, but of something that transcended earthly materials. It was as if the very essence of majesty had taken physical form. Upon the throne sat a figure in human likeness, but radiating such glory that Ezekiel could barely comprehend what he was seeing. From the waist up, the figure blazed like glowing metal and fire. From the waist down he was like fire itself. Around him was a radiance like a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day. Ezekiel knew instantly who this was. This was the glory of the Lord, the same glory that had filled Solomon's temple, the same presence that had led Israel through the wilderness as a pillar of fire and cloud. But now that glory had come to him, a broken exile by a foreign river. The prophet fell face down, overwhelmed by the weight of divine presence. His strength left him completely. He felt as though he were dying and being reborn at the same time. Every sin, every doubt, every moment of unfaithfulness flashed through his mind, and he was certain he would be consumed. But then he heard a voice gentle yet commanding, tender yet filled with absolute authority. "Son of man," the voice spoke, and the words seemed to penetrate Ezekiel's very bones. "Stand up on your feet and I will speak to you." As the voice spoke, Ezekiel felt a supernatural strength flow into his body. The Spirit entered him and raised him to his feet, though his knees still trembled with the weight of what he had witnessed. "Son of man," the voice continued, "I am sending you to the Israelites, to a rebellious nation that has rebelled against me. They and their ancestors have been in revolt against me to this very day. The people to whom I am sending you are obstinate and stubborn. Say to them, 'This is what the sovereign Lord says.'" Ezekiel's mind reeled. He had thought God had abandoned them in exile, but now he understood the truth. God hadn't abandoned his people. He had come to them in their darkest hour, in a foreign land, to a broken priest who had never stopped believing. "But Lord," Ezekiel managed to whisper, "how can I speak to them? They won't listen. They've lost faith. Some have even turned to other gods." The Lord's response came with both comfort and warning, "And whether they listen or fail to listen, for they are a rebellious house, they will know that a prophet has been among them. And you, son of man, do not be afraid of them or their words. Do not be afraid, though briars and thorns are all around you and you live among scorpions. Do not be afraid of what they say or be terrified by them, though they are a rebellious house." Then something extraordinary happened. Ezekiel watched as a hand appeared before him, holding a scroll. The hand unrolled it, and he could see writing on both sides words of lament and mourning and woe. "Son of man," the voice said, "eat this scroll I am giving you and fill your stomach with it." Without hesitation, despite not understanding how such a thing was possible, Ezekiel opened his mouth. The scroll came to him and he ate it. To his amazement, it tasted as sweet as honey in his mouth, even though it contained messages of judgment and sorrow. "This is my word," the Lord explained. "It may contain difficult truths, but to those who receive it with faith, it becomes sweet nourishment for the soul." As the vision began to fade, Ezekiel felt the Spirit lift him up. He heard behind him a loud rumbling sound as the glory of the Lord rose from its place. The sound of the wings of the living creatures brushing against each other filled the air, along with the sound of the wheels beside them. The Spirit took him away and he went in bitterness, in the anger of his spirit, with the strong hand of the Lord upon him. When he reached the place where the exiles lived by the Kebar River, he sat among them for 7 days, overwhelmed by what had happened to him. After 7 days of stunned silence, trying to process the magnitude of what he had experienced, the word of the Lord came to Ezekiel again. This time, the message was clear and terrifying in its responsibility. "Son of man," the Lord said, "I have made you a watchman for the people of Israel. When you hear a word from my mouth, you must give them warning from me. When I say to a wicked person, 'You will surely die,' and you do not warn them or speak out to dissuade them from their evil ways in order to save their life, that wicked person will die for their sin, and I will hold you accountable for their blood." Ezekiel felt the weight of this responsibility crush down upon him like a mountain. He was not just called to speak comfortable words or share pleasant prophecies. He was called to be God's warning system for an entire nation, and their blood would be on his hands if he failed to deliver the message. But the burden was even heavier than that. God showed Ezekiel that he would face opposition unlike anything the previous prophets had endured. His own people would reject him, mock him, and even try to silence him. They will not listen to you, the Lord warned, because they are not willing to listen to me, for all the Israelites are hardened and obstinate. But I will make you as unyielding and hardened as they are. I will make your forehead like the hardest stone, harder than flint. Do not be afraid of them or terrified by them, though they are a rebellious house. Right now, as you listen to this story, God might be speaking to your heart about being a watchman in your own generation. But here's the hard truth. Every day you stay silent about God's truth, every day you choose comfort over courage, someone in your sphere of influence might miss their chance for salvation. The question isn't whether God is calling you to speak up. The question is whether you'll have the courage to obey like Ezekiel did. Don't let fear rob you of your divine assignment. Share this message with someone today, and let them know in the comments what God is calling you to speak up about. Your obedience could be someone's breakthrough. The Lord then did something that would mark Ezekiel's ministry as one of the most dramatic in biblical history. He began commanding the prophet to act out his prophecies through symbolic actions that would capture the attention of a people who had grown deaf to ordinary words. Take a clay tablet, God commanded, and draw the city of Jerusalem on it. Then lay siege to it, build a siege wall against it, set up camps around it, and set battering rams against it all around. Then take an iron pan and place it as an iron wall between you and the city. Turn your face toward it so that it is under siege and besiege it. This will be a sign to the people of Israel. Day after day, Ezekiel lay on his side before this miniature siege, drawing crowds of curious exiles who wondered if their former priest had lost his mind. Some laughed, others whispered among themselves, but all watched. And that was exactly what God intended. Lie on your left side, the Lord continued, and put the sin of the people of Israel upon yourself. You are to bear their sin for the number of days you lie on your side. I have assigned you the same number of days as the years of their sin. So for 390 days you will bear the sin of the people of Israel. After you have finished this, lie down again, this time on your right side, and bear the sin of the people of Judah. I have assigned you 40 days, a day for each year. For 430 days, over a year, Ezekiel lay bound by ropes that the Lord commanded be placed upon him, unable to turn from one side to the other, eating rationed food and drinking measured water, demonstrating to his people the siege and suffering that would come upon Jerusalem. The exiles watched in fascination and horror. Some began to understand that this wasn't madness, it was prophecy in action. Others grew angry, demanding that someone stop the spectacle. But Ezekiel continued, day after day, bearing their sins symbolically, showing them the price of rebellion against God. During this time, whispers began to spread through the exile community. Have you seen what Ezekiel is doing? Is he truly a prophet? Could it be that God hasn't forgotten us after all? Years passed. Jerusalem fell exactly as Ezekiel had prophesied. The temple was destroyed, the city burned, the remaining people carried into exile. Those who had mocked the prophet now sat in stunned silence, realizing that every word he had spoken had come to pass. But in their darkest hour, when hope seemed as dead as bones bleaching in the desert, God had one more vision for his faithful prophet. It would become one of the most powerful and beloved passages in all of Scripture. The hand of the Lord was upon Ezekiel, and he was carried away by the Spirit of the Lord to a valley. As far as his eyes could see, the valley floor was covered with bones, not recent remains but ancient bones, dried and scattered, some partially buried in the dust of ages. The Lord walked him back and forth among the bones, and Ezekiel saw that they were very dry. These were not just dead, they were beyond dead, beyond any hope of life. They represented his people Israel, who had been saying, "Our bones are dried up and our hope is gone, we are cut off." "Son of man," the Lord asked, "can these bones live?" Ezekiel looked at the vast field of death stretching in every direction. By human reasoning the answer was obvious. These bones had been dead so long they were brittle and lifeless. But he had learned not to limit God by human understanding. "Sovereign Lord," he replied carefully, "you alone know. Prophesy to these bones," came the command. "Say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the Sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter you and you will come to life. I will attach tendons to you and make flesh come upon you and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord." Ezekiel felt foolish speaking to a valley of bones, but his experience with God had taught him that obedience was more important than understanding. He began to prophesy as commanded, his voice echoing across the silent valley. As soon as the words left his mouth, an extraordinary thing began to happen. A rattling sound filled the air, growing louder and louder. The bones began to move, rolling and clicking together. Ezekiel watched in amazement as bone came together with bone, forming complete skeletons across the valley floor. But the miracle continued. Tendons appeared on the bones, flesh grew over them, and skin covered the flesh. Within moments, what had been a valley of death was now filled with perfectly formed bodies. Yet something was missing. They did not breathe. Prophesy to the breath, the Lord commanded. Say to it, this is what the sovereign Lord says, come breath from the four winds and breathe into these slain that they may live. As Ezekiel prophesied, breath entered the bodies, and they came to life and stood up on their feet, a vast army, countless in number, stretching across the entire valley. Then the Lord explained the vision. Son of man, these bones are the people of Israel. They say, our bones are dried up and our hope is gone, we are cut off. Therefore prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, my people, I am going to open your graves and bring you up from them, I will bring you back to the land of Israel. Then you, my people, will know that I am the Lord, when I open your graves and bring you up from them. I will put my spirit in you and you will live, and I will settle you in your own land. The vision faded, but its message burned in Ezekiel's heart. No situation was too hopeless for God. No death too final. No exile too distant. The same God who could bring life to dry bones could restore his people to their land and to their destiny. But Ezekiel's greatest vision was yet to come. After showing him the restoration of the nation, God had one final revelation that would seal the prophet's understanding of his ultimate plan. In the 25th year of exile, on the 10th day of the month, the hand of the Lord was upon Ezekiel. In visions of God, he was taken to the land of Israel and set on a very high mountain, where he could see what looked like the structure of a city. As he watched, a man appeared whose appearance was like bronze, holding a linen cord and a measuring rod. The man began to measure a magnificent temple complex, far grander than Solomon's temple had ever been. Every detail was perfect, every measurement precise, every element designed for maximum glory. But as stunning as the architecture was, it wasn't the building that took Ezekiel's breath away, it was what he saw approaching from the east. The glory of the God of Israel was coming from the east. His voice was like the roar of rushing waters, and the land was radiant with his glory. It was the same glory Ezekiel had seen by the Kebar River years before, the wheels within wheels, the living creatures, the throne above the expanse. But this time, instead of appearing to one broken exile by a foreign river, the glory was returning home. It filled the temple completely, just as it had filled the tabernacle in Moses' time and Solomon's temple in its day of dedication. Son of man, the voice of the Lord thundered, this is the place of my throne and the place for the soles of my feet. This is where I will live among the Israelites forever. The people of Israel will never again defile my holy name, neither they nor their kings, by their prostitution and the funeral offerings for their kings at their death. Ezekiel fell face down before the overwhelming glory, but the vision continued. He saw a river flowing from the temple, starting as a trickle but growing deeper and wider as it flowed. Wherever this river went, it brought life. Trees grew along its banks, their fruit providing food and their leaves providing healing. Even the Dead Sea, that body of water so salty that nothing could live in it, would teem with fish where this river entered it. This isn't just an ancient vision, it's a prophecy that many believe is being fulfilled in our generation. The return of Israel to their land, the preparation for a new temple, the spiritual awakening happening around the world, could it be that we're living in the days Ezekiel saw? But here's what breaks God's heart. Millions of people will witness these prophetic fulfillments without recognizing their significance because no one told them what to look for. Don't let that happen on your watch. If this message has opened your eyes to God's prophetic timeline, you have a responsibility to share it. Subscribe, share this video, and tell us in the comments what signs of the end times you're seeing in your own life. Your voice could be the wake-up call someone desperately needs. As we close this incredible journey through Ezekiel's life, one question remains. What will you do with what you've heard? Ezekiel's story isn't just about one man's extraordinary encounters with God, it's an invitation to pursue your own divine encounters. It's a challenge to believe that the God who split the heavens open for a lonely exile is ready to break into your situation with the same power and glory. Maybe you're sitting by your own river of despair today, wondering if God has forgotten you. Take courage from Ezekiel's example. God's glory can appear anywhere, anytime, to anyone whose heart is open to Him. Maybe you're facing a calling that seems too difficult, too costly, too strange for others to understand. Remember that obedience to God is always worth it, even when the price seems unbearable. Maybe you're surrounded by dry bones, relationships that seem dead, dreams that have been buried, situations that appear hopeless. Know that the same God who brought life to Ezekiel's valley can resurrect anything in your life. The prophet's message echoes across the centuries to reach your heart today. You will know that I am the Lord. Not just know about him but know him personally, intimately, powerfully. Don't let this message end with entertainment or inspiration. Let it end with transformation. Let it end with you falling on your face before the God who still reveals his glory to those who seek him with all their hearts. Subscribe to this channel if you want more revelations from God's word that will change your life. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that God still performs miracles. And tell us in the comments, what dry bones in your life need God's resurrection power? The same God who called Ezekiel is calling you. The question is, will you answer?